You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry, ChillyBoy Chilson, and this is my review for Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret. Before we get into this review, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. Hey there, God. It's me, Margaret. Is a 2023 drama comedy that follows Margaret as she learns to navigate faith and her ever evolving body when she goes through one of the most turbulent years of her life. Film is written and directed by Kelly Freeman Craig and adapted from the novel of the same name written by Judy Blume, starring Rachel McAdams, Kathy Bates, Penny Safdie, and Abby Ryder Forston. I love The Edge of 17. I think it's funny and relatable. It has my level of snark and sassiness that I love. So, inherently, I was excited when I heard that that director was coming on board for a new film. The trailers looked really endearing. I love Rachel McAdams. The subject matter seemed like something fun to explore. Ultimately, I think Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is a really, really good coming of age story, particularly telling the story of a young girl coming into her own. So let's go ahead and talk about the positives first. I want to start with our acting performances because they are all fantastic. Rachel McAdams is so good in this film. It's honestly one of her better performances in quite some time. Brings that effortless charm that she's always known for. There's this underlying not only longing but uncertainty to her performance that works so well. She's loving, but she's kind of sad and she's a little bit frazzled and quite messy. And McAdams is able to really capture all of that perfectly. Abby Ryder Forston is our lead. She plays Margaret here, and what a wonderful performance from her. She is so believable, so cute, so endearing. From the big dramatics to the over the top comedy down to those sweet revelations. She does a fabulous job. And of course, I loved Kathy Bates in this film. She's a diva. She's over the top as well. She is fabulous, darling. And I lived for her performance and for that character. Honestly, that's another positive for me. If you know me, you'll know that a grandmother grandchild film is kind of my kryptonite because it always hits home for me having such a relationship with my grandma. Once again, I loved that relationship. I loved how well developed it was and how prominent it was throughout the film. Loved that aspect to the script. And speaking of the script, I think it's really solid. Some might be a little bit nervous that we are, really skirting the raunchy edge that we've done so often in these coming of age films, including Edge of 17 has a little bit of that book smart. The boy ones certainly have had that mid 90s. Seems teenager coming of age stories, whether on television or in films, needs to be hypersexual in this modern culture. And I have to say, this film definitely touches on sexual subject matters because as you begin puberty, your hormones are all over the place. You are starting to question sex. You're starting to question kissing and the opposite gender or the same gender. All of that is happening, and your body is literally changing. However, what I think this film does so well is balance those kind of topics, the slightly raunchy humor of it all, with an underlying sweetness to it all, an innocence to the way that the subject matters are explored by our characters, curiosity. It's a wide-eyed kind of curiosity. They play it up a little bit for their friends to be cool, but it never crosses any lines. It felt so appropriate to the age range, and that was such a unique and wonderful aspect to the screenwriting and acting. Direction is also really solid. I think it is a well-crafted film. that all comes together amazingly well in the 3rd act. I'll be honest, the first 2 acts, I was like, "This is fine, this is good." It all comes to a head with a really emotionally resonant, beautiful 3rd act that culminates a lot of what we've been building up towards, whether it's the religious aspect that plays such a huge part, the family dynamic, or this girl as she grows older, both as she realizes who she wants to be within her friend circles and among her peers at a new place, or whether it's literally her body. Found the 3rd act to just be extremely poignant and beautifully handled. Then what doesn't work so well when it comes to Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I do think maybe 1 or 2 too many storylines hinders us by the end. I said most of our stories that we've been building up come to a nice head, a nice emotionally resonant conclusion in the finale. And I do like actually that a lot of the story is still kind of messy because life is messy. However, we just introduce quite a few things, whether it's with Rachel McAdams' character and her relationship to her family, whether it's crushes and relationships to other kids in the school, whether it's Margaret and her grandparents, or Margaret and her own parents themselves. There's a lot of different story threads happening throughout the entirety of this film, and some of them feel like they overstuffed what could have been a bit more streamlined of a plot. And while I was entertained enough and I did find myself smiling and laughing throughout the first act, I also kind of felt my mind starting to wander as we moved throughout the first act, parts of the second act, as we built up to that third act. A lot of these characters are a lot to deal with and handle, which is their point. But as a viewer, it doesn't make it any less cringy to interact with some of the characters and what they're talking about and doing on screen. I was like, "Ooh, my, is this how y'all kids were acting back in the day when I was growing up too?" Because this is not the kind of activities I was up to or the big interests I had. It's a really sophisticated look at maturing and growing up. Also, a surprisingly sophisticated look at religion and how individuals grapple with religion. Yes, it does give Judy Blume her nice little tiny cameo. You were a fan of the book, I definitely say go check this out. I've never read it, clearly, but I can't imagine fans of the book won't get something out of watching this adaptation. Also, if you like coming of age stories, if you've enjoyed the slew of teenage girl films that have really come out over the past several years, including Booksmart, Edge of 17 from the same director, Turning Red, 8th Grade, Lady Bird. If you've enjoyed those films, I think you're really going to enjoy this one as well. Spread your wings, push yourself outside of your comfort box. If you watch that film about bras and tampons and periods and all that, and you get uncomfortable, watch the film anyway and push yourself to make regular topics like these feel more comfortable. That is my review for Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret, which is a very long title. Probably too long if we're being honest. But I want to hear your thoughts either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.